do I give a fuck? Why do I give a fuck? Why do I try so hard? Why do I care so much?
Welcome to Why Do I Give a Fuck? A cross-cultural conversation between myself, Deanne Tate,
and Johanna Thompson. In these times of great struggle and possible shift, we ask ourselves,
why do we give a fuck about any of it? How does the lens we see the world through impact what we see?
And what do we do about it?
Well, I know that we need to do something major about Pam Bondi right now, the Attorney General of the United States, handling this Epstein file. So it is. So it was like immediately, let's get online and sit here and have this conversation about this crazy behavior, I'm going to say, because I'm never going to call a person a crazy person, but I'm going to say the behavior is exceptionally harmful and everyone is talking about it. And so I thought it was a great opportunity for us to come on and talk about it.
Well, and you know it's something big when you're talking, when it's filtering through to the island. That's how that's my new filter. Huge. Yeah, that's my new gate. It's like if it makes it all the way to the if Jay is texting me going, we need to talk about this, then something major is happening.
Yeah, and in mattering, and like the reason why it's mattering so much is because as we talk about like the proliferation of violence in the way that the U.S. likes to do it, this is like the highest, and I was explaining this to somebody in Jamaica, that this person is the highest prosecutor in the land on the United States. Like literally the person that holds the opportunity to call people into accountability in the way that people need to be called into accountability when they commit a crime. And the thing that's so egregious about this situation is that we have a practice in the United States, or there is a practice in the United States, because I'm not on the island. I mean, I'm on the island and not on the land.
Praise be.
The practice is that you do not out the victims because all you are doing is continuing the harm. We have entire departments that are like supposed to be, victim centered, holding victims in care and consideration. And here we have our Department of Justice and the highest prosecutor in the land violently and egregiously harming victims and then not taking accountability for what the department has done. So I don't know. Epstein and all these files. We talked about it a little bit, but you want to give some background on how you understand?
Well, I guess I want to say trigger warning in case we talk about anything that is difficult for any of our listeners or viewers to hear. I mean, I haven't gone through. I did see a friend of mine had posted a link to. It's called Jmail. And it's somebody has taken the Epstein emails and created a link, and I'll put the link in the notes for those that are listening and want to check it out. But it propagates when you open the link. It propagates like it looks like a Gmail inbox, but it's Jmail, and it's all of the emails that have been released so far. And you could just go up into the search bar at the top and search whatever. Search Bill Clinton. Search. Donald Trump, search Deepak Chopra, just to name a few. And the emails that are related to those names will pop up. And so it's a way. So I was doing a little perusing of that. And it's
did you put Donald Trump in the search?
You know what? I didn't. I need to do that.
You didn't name right there.
I didn't need to. He's everywhere in it, right? I'm like, I don't even want to, I know what he's about. I was married to two of him. So I know, Anne was raised by one. So I'm not, it's the names that I'm starting to hear that I'm like, want to know more about their involvement and want to, Oprah Winfrey, folks like that. So that's kind of what I was searching more than anything else, but I'll put the link to that site in the notes of the show if anybody wants to check that out. But yeah, I mean, for those of you listening and watching, I'm sure everybody has seen bits and pieces of Attorney General Pam Bondi's testimony in front of Congress. And, she is a perfect personification of white women white womenness harm.
Think about it.
Ugh. I mean, I saw an interesting
harm.
Yeah, the harm is just it's just never ending. I don't know how any folks talk to any of us anymore because the harm is just never ending. And I saw a clip or a reel that somebody had done on the socials talking about how these women have been set up by the patriarchy. And
which women though? Like, let's clarify because
Pam Bondi, Pam Bondi, all the women that are in the higher levels
the administration
of the administration. Yeah. What's her name with the white stripe in her hair? This the secretary. You see, I'm blanking on all their names because I've blocked them all out.
Just because it's the moment to have the conversation. But basically, anyone that's under the administration and that is female, woman identified,
yeah,
they're being set up. And when you were talking
I will stop you. I don't think they are being set up. That's the thing. It's like they're not being set up. They are volunteering. And Amanda Sills just did a reel on this last night, and she was so on point. They are volunteering to be in this place. So don't anybody feel sorry for these women. They are choosing to be in a place of extreme harm, and their proximity to power, they do not give two shits about being thrown under any kind of proverbial bus, because that's the party bus that they choose to be on. So no, that I don't give them any leeway for being set up, as it were, by the patriarchy, because they are milking that shit for all it is worth. So, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Well, I mean, because like in the history of it, they'll be protected by the patriarchy. I'm assuming. Of
course, they'll be fine
outside of my purview of understanding. with white womenness, but there's a certain, you play this role for us, you be the supportive partner, and this is patriarchy loves this, regardless if you're white or however you identify. Patriarchy expects for female identified women to support their whole of everything, and when you do support it, you do get benefits. You get benefits and perks. You get to sit pretty and enjoy things and be taken care of. And there is some beauty in being taken care of. I'm not going to say that I don't like that, but but not at the cost of harming other people in the way that we were able to see Pam Bondi do in this past week or so. And I wanted to share a clip about that. Is that if it's possible, if we could share the clip and then continue the conversation? Is this the right time to do it?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Let's do that then.
This is just a clip for those that are watching, just a little bit of context. So she testified in front of Congress. This is a piece of it. And she's being questioned by Representative Pramila Jayapal from the state of Washington. She's a U.S. House representative from Washington. And this was one of the moments of the Attorney General's crash out.
All right.
Have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice. Please know for the record that every single survivor has raised their hand. Attorney General Bondi, you apologized to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
Congresswoman, you sat before Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Attorney General Bondi.
No, can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time because I asked you a specific question that I would like you to answer, which is, will you turn to the survivors? This is not about anybody that came before you. It is about you taking responsibility for your Department of Justice and the harm that it has done to the survivors who are standing right behind you and are waiting for you to turn to them and apologize for what your Department of Justice has done.
Members get to ask the questions, the witness gets to answer in the way they want to answer. The Attorney General can
that's
respond.
not accurate, Mr. Chairman.
Because she doesn't like the answer.
Time.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
why
I have asked.
Didn't she ask Merrick Garland this?
I am
twice
reclaiming
when he
my
sat in my
time, and
chair.
when I
will
reclaim my
continue to
time,
answer.
it
Mr.
is
Chairman,
my-
the gentlelady is
I'm not going to get in the gutter for her theatrics.
The time belongs to the gentlelady. The gentlelady has 17 seconds.
Thank you. You're not going to answer this question, so let me just
Chairman,
say
I'll
this.
direct it to
What a
you.
massive
No, I'm
cover-up.
answering a question.
Chairman, will you restore her time? The witness
I'm
is
not gonna get in
interrupting.
the gutter with this woman.
Stop the
She's
time
doing
and
theatrics.
let me have my
The
time.
gentlelady from Washington controls the time. The gentlelady has 17 seconds. You can proceed with your final
Thank you.
17 seconds.
What a massive cover-up this has been and continues to be. Donald Trump made the release of the Epstein files the center of his political campaign because he thought it would benefit him. Then you got into office, Attorney General, claimed to have a client list, only
Regular
to
order.
then say that there was no list. Your deputy, Todd Blanche, met alone with Elaine Maxwell.
I want to just stop it and pause it right there and just have the conversation about the fact that, one, this woman wouldn't answer the question, that there is a whole bunch of clowning happening in the room. What are the rooms at the end?
In the congressional, she's sitting in front of congressional hearing. Yeah.
So they're in the congressional chambers. That's what the word is.
Chamber,
I did work on Capitol Hill one time, but the congressional chambers, and not actually answer the questions from the representative, and completely scapegoating a way to blame her for not asking the same question for somebody else who was sitting in that seat. And that just speaks to the level of harm and the level of like kind of not taking any form of accountability for the harm that was created for these people and the victims. And I want to go back to centering how egregious that is, because people being named and outed when they were in a situation that was a form of sex trafficking, they were young people. This can cause so much harm and like reliving trauma that these young women are having to go through, and not actually being acknowledged. None of that being acknowledged on a global stage just puts them in a really bad situation. And this is about, when you spoke into like white woman harm, I'm curious some examples of how that is demonstrated even in the way that Pam Bondi is responding during this trial.
How what is demonstrated? The white woman harm?
White women harm, like the different like ways to one of the things that I can say from my experience of being harmed by white women is not being able to acknowledge exactly what she's doing, that you actually have created some type of harm to people. And acknowledging harm, I always go back to restorative justice and restorative practice. And first of all, let's name what happened, and like let's all get on the same page that we are going to say this is the thing that actually happened. We know that these young women were violently trafficked, and I'm using the word violently trafficked because they were young. They were, however they got into the situation.
Being trafficked is violent.
Violent. And they're young women, and there's a diversity of them. So that is the first thing, is just naming what happened. And then we like to ask the question of, now that we have acknowledged what has happened, what have you thought about since? And I'm really curious to know, Pam Bondi existing in a female body, having the experience of what it is to be a woman in the world, and not being able to acknowledge that young women who have even less autonomy and less ability to protect themselves, and should have been protected either by their close community, and if not their close community, then the state in some way, shape, or form, and now the highest offices of the land not even protecting. So what does that speak to on layers and layers of like disregard for other women that exist, and disregard for victim care? And that's something that we really need to be looking at in the United States. Is tremendous. Somebody called me on the phone and was just like, Pam Bondi needs to get her ass kicked so she can become a victim, like in the way that you, and then it not be acknowledged, there be no apology, and no one actually want to do anything about it, so she can understand where these women are sitting in. And I'm getting stopped up with my words because I'm getting impassioned by emotion.
No, I hear you.
It's like, it's so, it's so unbelievable to me to have heard that this has happened and that this woman is sitting in this position and protecting all of this harm in the way that she's protecting harm.
Well, and I want to acknowledge what you shared in the beginning of that you've had this experience, not necessarily sitting in front of Congress, but just in your sphere of working and things like that, where something happens, harm is caused, and white women look at you and go, that didn't happen,
Yeah.
and what are you talking about? It's the ultimate gaslighting. It's like it takes so gaslighting, like if you're in a room with just a couple of people or you're in a private conversation with someone and you gaslight that person, that's harmful, and that's one level. But to gaslight on live television and think it's like that's like a
congressional hearing.
That's like a whole nother level of of expecting to be able to perpetrate that level of harm and get away with it without any, and we've been watching this phenomenon. I mean, it's been happening for centuries. I know we didn't have video centuries ago, but certainly in the past, 10 to 15 years with Trump, and to a lot of people, Trump was the first experience that they had with, wait, didn't I just watch this video that this is happening, and yet he's going to get on TV and say it didn't happen? But what, didn't I just see that video? I mean, that's part of the reason why somebody said when I was living in Charleston, when Walter Scott was shot in the back by the police officer, and a bystander videotaped it and got that video to, released it to the public. And that was how the cop was able to be brought up on charges. He was acquitted by the jury because one juror just could not possibly send a white cop to jail. But then he was found guilty of violating Walter Scott's civil rights. That was the thing that they could get him on. So that's my context, that somebody said when those kinds of things were happening, we were starting to see more and more on video. They said, and I don't remember exactly who said it, so I don't want to misattribute, but they said, this has been happening all along. We're just now seeing video. Now we have video that we can capture it on. So this has all been happening long before, but yeah, it's a whole nother level of gaslighting. And I think white women specifically are uniquely positioned for this level of treachery because of their proximity to power. And you and I were talking before we even, before we started recording, that, why would she do this? Why would she do this? Why would she, give into, and oh, I know what it was. You asked me if you thought she was going to lose her job, if I thought she was going to lose her job for doing this. And I'm like, no, because, she did exactly what Trump wanted her to do. And even if he does, he'll fire her maybe if there's enough pushback, maybe if somehow this lands him in the stinker pile, and it would behoove him to have her fall on her sword. But she will be fine. She will be just fine. She will have all kinds of opportunities available to her after this because
movie deals.
Because she did, she took the bullet for the president. So
what are you saying she took the bullet? Because I'm really trying to understand. She's taking the bullet because her position is that she doesn't have to acknowledge these people who are victims. And when she uses the language, I'm not going to get in the gutter with you. That's like the dog whistle language, directing to somebody who like visibly doesn't, present as a white person. So getting in the gutter, when this person is not in the gutter, I just want to make that like very clear. This person
is a whole sitting of U.S. representative,
a sitting U.S. representative, but the person wasn't asking her to do any gutter work. The person was actually asking her to acknowledge the harm to people that are being named and called victims for having egregious acts happen to them. That's not gutter work. That actually is angel work. If you really want to know, that's angel work. To say, hey, can you just turn around to these women and say, my God, I understand I understand the harm and the violence that you have gone through because she named it. But if they're right there, the actual accountability piece and what people mostly need when an actual apology or amends are happening is for someone to look at them and say, I recognize that this was harmful. It shouldn't have been done. It was done, but I even recognize that harm happened. Sometimes that's enough to get people to start moving along on their healing journey. And that is not happening here because they are in this gaslighting position. And I'm not understanding how this supports and protects Trump in any way, because I'm mostly focused on how you are allowing this to happen to these victims is like naming these victims and putting their information out. Is it speaking into these are not valuable human beings that we should even be caring about? Like, I don't understand the strategy behind this and the strategy of outing these young women.
Oh, I know what the strategy is. The strategy is that I firmly believe that it's all about making the survivors more vulnerable to people that would support the Epstein elite class and take them out. You know, I mean, and I know that sounds wildly
take them out and like make them unable to continue
unalive them if that's what it takes to shut them up. I would not be surprised. I mean, that's what we're dealing with now. That's the world we're living in. I mean, it's the world we've been living in.
It's already been communicated. It's already been shared. So
but it's still redacted. So they were supposed to release the files unredacted, except for the survivors. That's the way it would happen when we were not in the Upside Down. That they would redact the names of the survivors and they would not redact the names of the perps. But they did it the opposite way. Which
makes no sense.
They redacted because she is a fucking perp. You know, she is caping for the perps. She is working for the perps. She is the U.S.'s highest legal authority, and she is working for the perpetrators and is doing everything she can to, and she's supposed to be, for those of you who are listening that are outside the U.S., she's supposed to be completely separate. The Department of Justice is supposed to be independent from the administration. But, you know, I have to say, she did have a point. Merrick Garland did not do, you know, the attorney generals, we've known about these files long before Trump was in office. And, you know, Biden's attorney general didn't bring charges either. So she had that point. That was the only point she had, was that she is not the first attorney general to ignore these files. They've had this information for a long time. I know that's not the point. That doesn't negate what she is doing to the survivors. That doesn't negate that at all. Yeah, no, it doesn't negate it at all.
Didn't even bring up the files. The other person didn't bring up the files. Okay, but you did. Your Department of Justice did bring up the files, and your Department of Justice did actually release the names of these women.
Your Department of Justice should be investigating. Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
But you should be in the accountability to these women. That's all I'm talking. Like,
there's nothing about our current accounting. There's nothing about our current government that has anything to do with accountability. Nothing
at all, or caring for victims or centering victims, and they're really, really supporting
at all
this. I do have something that I want to call this.
What do you want to call it? Huh?
This is classic white people.
It is. It absolutely is.
I mean, I'm laughing, but it's just like, that's the only thing that I would, in my conversations amongst my friends, is just like, yo, look at how they really get down. And it's your own folks. Like, you're just at the place at the point in time that y'all don't even care. At least there used to be an argument where it's like, oh, you're targeting some other people. Now you don't even care about holding it down for your own.
Because it's all about power. It's all really about power. And even at a deeper level, I mean, I've known this, you know, speaking to my own consciousness about this, I've known this, but the release of the files has brought it even, you know, learning about child sacrifice, learning about what was happening on the island, learning about the fact that, just days after it was released that Jeffrey was being investigated for all of this stuff, he ordered 5 50-gallon drums of sulfuric acid and had it delivered to the island. You use sulfuric acid to destroy evidence, destroy people. That's the mind-blowing part for me. I mean, it's like, we've watched movies and we've watched all the true crime things for so long. And I know we've seen this stuff enacted out as the highest form of evil, but having it right in front of our faces in black and white, that even people that we thought were of semi-decent character, the list is just going to keep growing and growing and growing. Trump still thinks he's untouchable. That's why he keeps talking about it. I mean, he ran on releasing these files, knowing he was in them over 4,000 times or whatever the number is, which speaks to me to his deep understanding of how untouchable he is.
And all of these people, well, I mean, because they have their whole ecosystem set up. And I was just trying to explain this to somebody, like, he really did the same things that like Madison did back in the 1800s, and, really positioning themselves with an internal barrier, an internal wall of protection with the legislation and the administration, and appointing the Supreme Court justices, and in naming and having this the Senate approve this attorney general, who everybody is in the pocket, and being able to see how they're creating fear by releasing victims. So like, that's what I want to go back into, is like talking about like the strategy of this is that how many people who might have something to say about sexual violence and harm that they experience won't want to now, because they can be outed. They can not have any accountability held for them. They can see that the people that have created and caused the harm and done these egregious acts are not going to be called into any form of accountability, or any type of having to make amends or take care of these women's needs. Like, this really is creating a setback. And, if we talk about Handmaid's Tale behavior, this is like, front and center for me, where you're just really invalidating the safety of women in particular, and young women that wouldn't have had a voice or an opportunity to speak out for themselves as all of these acts were happening. And that is like, I'm speechless.
I know. Well, and it's not new. I mean, I remember when I started watching Handmaid's Tale, and I was, of course, clutching the pearls and oh my God, and all the things.
Yeah.
And then, not long after that started, I remember seeing a Black woman content creator. I don't remember her name, but she was not on the socials, and she just looked into the camera and she's like, "You don't think this has already been happening to Black women and Black girls?" And that blew my mind, because I had not considered that yet. And so from then on, I watched it more as when I first started watching it, I was watching it as an, oh my God, could they really do this? Is this coming? And from the moment that she said, it's already here, already has been done here, I realized I started watching it with a different lens. I started watching it as a kind of a learning of how could it develop, and how could it, like comparing it to what was happening in the world. And that was even years ago, we weren't
I know.
but comparing it to what was happening in the world and going, this is really happening. This is really coming. And I just want to say out loud that a lot of it has to do with white women, especially white women, but white people in general, understand, starting to feel even the slightest pinch of what people who don't look like us have been feeling since the inception of this country. We'll keep it just to the US experience. And we're just now, it's now getting closer. We're now having proximity to feel that level of harm. And,
I mean, we
relate to the
haven't really
game.
been that far out of women's rights, right? The coming, and we haven't actually fully gained equitable rights
No.
as it occurs now. So it's just,
And
for
they've been
me,
rolling them back.
yeah, it's just a rollback. It's like a real, like, quick and easy rollback. So it really speaks to the fact that we have gotten so complacent in what we've achieved thus far, not realizing, and I'm talking about we as like a universal we, because there has been a sect of people that have been saying continuously, like this Black content creator, saying this is continuing to happen in certain communities, and this is the reality that we exist in. But we also know, like, during the suffrage movement and women's rights movement, what complacency and where comfort gets you, and you don't continue with moving forward in making sure that the achievements that we need to reach as far as goals, if we get complacent, we're going to be in these positions where they can just take away rights in the way that they've been doing. I'm also hearing about things like women going into the bank to try to withdraw money and not being able to have their money withdrawn in large amounts, or needing co-signers and all kinds of stuff that for me, is out of order.
Yeah.
Out of order in every way.
Yeah.
Shape or form. But it is also the reality of, like, where we think that we have this foundational autonomy for ourselves, we really don't.
Don't.
It's not according to U.S. law and the way that this administration is running things and allowing these acts to happen.
Yeah. So, we all need to be on point in terms of trying to not succumb to the fear. I don't know how to not succumb to the fear, and try to do what we can to build community, to be in, because our immediate communities around us are going to be, that's who we're going to have to lean on. I mean, parable of the sower, we're going to have to, we can no longer, I mean, it's crazy to me to think that the midterms are coming up in November, and I don't even know if they're going to happen. And even if they do happen, I don't trust that they'll be real or fair or true or any of those things. And it's like, I don't even care about that anymore, because my awareness has expanded so much beyond, I mean, I'm ready to throw all of them away. And, because they're just, none of them are worth anybody's grain of salt.
And how are we getting the system to operate in a way like it was envisioned to operate? Because it's operating in the way that the system is set up to operate. It's doing everything.
I feel like it's operating the way it was envisioned. But we need to find a new vision.
Maybe like the initial vision, but like when Bill of Rights were added and all of these other components of like us kind of evolving socially, I'm talking about like not having that train of social evolution where we are becoming the pillar of democracy that we claim and that we story narrative tell across the globe that we hold. We don't hold those things. And that's actually being demonstrated to the world. Like, oh, the US says
we don't hold
beautiful democracy. And now we know that democracy is not any more effective than socialism or communism or anything like that. It's just not actually existing in any of those ways where it exists. It is purest identity. However, the US did hold this component of representation that we were moving towards having more people a part of that process, much more than what we would have seen 100 years ago.
You have more faith than I do.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I do. So I receive that. And I am just talking about what's real. When I was coming up looking at Congress, the representation that I saw was white males. And I can clearly identify with that. And I'm talking about as a young person in elementary school and high school, when they start introducing you to the stuff and taking you to those state offices downtown, and maybe you take a trip to DC. The representation that I got to experience was white males. So right now, that's not what is there. And that's what I'm talking about. We've evolved to a place where there's greater representation, where we've had laws that are more inclusionary than exclusionary. And that is rolling back with this administration. And I'm talking about what happened or what's happening to the united front of us getting together and being able to hold power under this type of administration. We're not able to hold power in the way, and we're seeing power being used in a way that we have not exercised. And now knowing that we can exercise it in this way, folks that are more inclusive, folks that are more considerate of a diversity of human thought, when they get into political power and political position, I'm hoping that they can move with the same audacity that these folks in this administration and Project 2025 are moving in. What does that look like for me? Yes, I will always still go and show up to vote, and please vote for folks that are more aligned with my understanding and ideology about how I want to exist in the United States, so that the United States is an option for me. Since this administration, it has not been an option for me, because I knew that this level of type of egregiousness was going to happen, and I needed to be someplace that has its own level of egregious behavior, but it also has a different culture and understanding of what life should be, and it shouldn't be set in oppression and death in the same way that is being experienced in the United States, with so much capital, so much privilege, so many resources, that we don't have to operate that way. We're different from a little island that doesn't have the same amount of resources.
Well, I'm glad you got off of this space.
Well, I'm one leg on, one leg off. I'm like,
I know, but I choose to be excited about the leg off.
Yes.
I'm happy about the leg off. That makes me happy. It makes my heart happy.
You know, I'm still holding hope for the United States, because there's something about what it does is provide the world with culture. Like, it doesn't really produce anything else. But if we're producing a culture, we need to produce a culture that is more like
violence.
Out of many.
We produce violence.
It's a culture of
That's
violence.
All we produce.
That is absolutely
violence, true. Power, oppression, suppression, and
capitalism.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
all of those wonderful things. And so we will continue
to be with us. Nothing can be fixed. Yeah. All right.
Well,
thank you for the conversation. I know we didn't necessarily fix anything, but
we are having conversations, and that fixes something.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. All right. Be well.
Till next time.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, as you move throughout your day, continue to ask yourself,
Why Do I Give a Fuck is produced in collaboration with Johanna and Deanne. Music by Norwegian musician Water. See you next time.